Okay, chapter 2.4 deals with linear functions, and the big question is, how do you find slope? Okay, so in given situations, get rid of that. We'll go back up. Okay, in these different given situations, if I have a graph, then what I'm going to do is connect the 2 points to form a triangle, and then I'm going to count the rise over run. So if I start here, I have to count up. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a positive 5. And then I have to go left, which is 1, 2, 3. That's a negative 3. So the slope is equal to positive 5 over negative 3. Okay, positive 5 over negative 3. On the second box over here, if I start off with an equation and I need to figure out what the slope is, then I have to solve for y. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 2x, and then I'm going to divide everything by 3. Okay, so y equals 9 divided by 3 is 3, negative 2 over 3x. Okay, so if I look at the number in front of x, negative 2/3 is my slope. Okay, if I'm given only a table, in order to find the slope, I have to use the slope formula. Okay, y subtract y, x subtract x. Okay, so if I look at the two y values, that's going to give me negative 1 minus a negative 3. Okay, and then my two x values are 3 and 4. So that's going to be 3 minus 4. Okay, so negative 1 minus a negative 3 turns into plus 3. That gives me 2, and 3 minus 4 is negative 1. So my slope is equal to a negative 2. Oops. I don't think it'll let me connect that. Okay, that's okay. I'll just make that smaller, move it over. All right, if I'm given 2 points, then it's the same process. It's going to be y minus y, so 1 minus 7, and then it's going to be x minus x, so 0 minus 5. So m is the slope. 1 minus 7 is negative 6. 0 minus 5 is negative 5. And negative divided by negative is positive. So positive 6 over 5 is my slope. All right, now let's take a look at domain and range. Domain is going to be all of your x's, and the range is going to be all of your y values. Okay, so whenever you have a graph such as this one here, this is a vertical graph, okay, it crosses the x-axis at positive 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the point that I've graphed here is the point 4, 0. Okay, if I pick a few more random points, like let's say this one here, that's positive 4, negative 3. Okay, if I pick another one, this is positive 4, positive 4. Okay, I'll pick another one over here. It's positive 4, positive 7. Okay, if you notice in the x column, I'm never going to have an x value other than 4. Okay, so the domain of this particular graph is only the number 4. There are no other values for the domain. Okay, however, the range is going to end up being any real number. okay, all the way from negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay, that's going to be my range. All right, so let's take a look at another graph. Okay, if I take this line here and I make it horizontal instead, okay, this graph crosses the y-axis at -3, and the point is 0, -3. Okay, so if I pick another point on this graph, okay, that's going to be the point +4, -3. I can pick some more points along this graph. Okay, this would be the point -2, -3. Okay, and then this point over here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -7, -3. Okay, so if you notice the pattern here, all of my y values are going to be -3. So the range is never going to go any further than -3. It's always going to be -3. So the range is -3. Okay, but if you look at all of your x values, your domain is going to be all real numbers, from -infinity all the way to +infinity. Okay, we're going to look at one more graph. We're going to look at a graph that has a slope. Okay, so if I take this graph and I give it a slope here, let's see. Okay, it crosses x at 5, and it crosses y at 3. Okay, if I look along the x-axis here, the point 5, 0 is a point that's on this graph. And along the y-axis, the point 0, 3 is a point on the graph. Okay, but I can go ahead and I can just pick a whole lot of other numbers here. Let's go back to the negative x value, like -2. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. -2, +4 is another point on the graph. Okay, this point here, -9, +8. Okay, if we start looking at the pattern in the x-axis, there really is no pattern. Okay, my domain is going to be all real numbers, from -infinity to +infinity. Okay, in fact, I could actually write it like this. Whoops. And then the range is going to be the same difference. There's no pattern. It's going to be all real numbers, from -infinity to +infinity.